It's a beautiful rainy day in Washington again, you guys. So we are actually up at cryo mode today. I've got the transmission, the rear differential, the throttle body, the power steering rack, and the rear differential brace that we're all getting dry ice blasted today. It's relatively loud in there, so I'll probably be giving you guys voiceover as we go over this, but they said it'll probably take about 2 hours to dry ice blast all this stuff. But essentially what dry ice blasting is it's a very fine grain of dry ice that gets pressurized and then shot out. The dry ice freezes, it cleans off a lot of dirt, it just gets parts looking brand new, and it's somewhat relatively affordable. I always thought it was crazy expensive, but at least up here at cryo mode, they're relatively affordable. Let's do one. The way that the dry ice blasting works is they take all of this dry ice from this giant bin, feed it into this machine, and the machine actually grinds up the dry ice into fine particles, and they can set the particle size, and then they use compressed air to blast the dry ice at the parts that you need cleaned. And the dry ice is around negative 110 degrees Fahrenheit, so I believe it freezes the dirt, and then the pressure from the gun itself also blasts it all off, similar to as if you're media blasting or sand blasting something. Everything's cleaning up pretty well, but it's not put back in the car worthy, if that makes sense. So the power steering rack, that's gonna have to get Cerakoted or powder coated, probably Cerakoted. The rear diff needs to be coated. The trans and the throttle body and the rear diff brace all look great, but the actual rear diff, it's rusty. Obviously dry ice blasting it is not gonna get it looking brand new again. So with the aluminum stuff, it seems to do way better with the aluminum and like gunk on there. So the trans, we should be able to just put the trans back in. The rear diff, we'll either paint that or coat it. I don't know quite yet. It's been about a half hour since I checked in last, so let's go see how things are doing. We're back down at the shop, and the results that we got from dry ice blasting, in my opinion, were a little bit lackluster. A lot of the videos that I watched from people online, dry ice blasting, on video at least, their stuff looks really good. And on video, so does ours. But in person, it still looks grungy, and it doesn't look like something I would want to put back on a car, at least with everything else that we've done at this point. So what I think I'm gonna do, and I'll show you guys the trans, I went over to O'Reilly's and they had some of this stuff called Illuma Blast. So I'm gonna try this Illuma Blast on the transmission. It's supposed to restore the original look and condition of aluminum. I've used it before on steel and it's come out actually pretty solid. So I'm curious to see what it's going to look like. I was pretty happy with the steel version that I used. So with the transmission, on camera, it doesn't look bad. You guys can see that I tried wire wheeling some spots on here and it looks really good wire wheeled, but it just doesn't, I feel like it's just lazy and it doesn't look right. But you guys can see on the inside of the trans, they didn't even get everything with the dry ice blasting, and I can go in there with a wire wheel and just kind of rub it off and it comes off. So I'm gonna have to finish cleaning the inside of the bell housing, and it doesn't even look like they really did the top of the bell housing, which is kind of a letdown. But what I'm thinking for the trans, we're gonna pull off this cover, this cover, this cover, cover, the bottom oil pan cover, and we're actually gonna powder coat all of that black. So let me just get all that stuff off, get it sandblasted, and then we'll jump over to powder coating. For the rear diff, I picked up some engine enamel, and we're just gonna respray that with engine enamel. I don't wanna go to the extent of having to take the diff apart, so we'll mask off the cover, we'll paint this. Once this is dry, we'll paint the cover, and then that should be good to go back on the car. Ideally in this video, I wanna get the driveline back on the car and get the car on the ground out of the shop so that way we can see it. Trans has been leaking from this cover also, which explains it. There's no gasket on it. So we'll just use some RTV and seal it up there. What interesting screws there. So as for anything, before painting or spraying any type of coating on any part that you're going to be working with, obviously mask away anything that you don't want painted. And then since we just had this stuff dry ice blasted, it's like 90% clean, but we do need to go through there and make sure that we do get this thing at least as clean as we possibly can. That means getting all of this old black grease, oil out of the bell housing of the transmission and off of the rest of the transmission, just so that way we can ensure that our Alumablast is going to stick to this long term, because we don't want to spray this and then have it not stick. Shake can at least 1 minute until rattles occasionally heard during use. Spray surface with steady even strokes at a distance of 8 to 10 inches. Several light coats give a better finish than one heavy coat. Now with this Alumablast, I'm doing 3 light coats. They did specify on the can, lighter coats are going to make the finish better. And I will say the finish came out immaculate from doing a couple lighter coats across this entire transmission. Now with the rear diff, since we did just have this cleaned as well, it doesn't really require too much cleaning. The engine enamel did say that we could spray directly over any surface rust or anything like that, and it will be totally fine. So going by what the can said, I did it anyways. For the rear diff, I'm doing about 3 coats of this engine enamel, making sure that we have full coverage, so that way it's going to protect it long term. Because I wanted a little bit of contrast on the transmission, I didn't want everything to just be painted silver with the Alumablast. So anything that we can take off, such as panels, covers, anything like that, just to make the trans look a little bit better, I wanted to powder coat this stuff. So I'm gonna take off all these little panels, all the little covers, toss them in the sandblaster, media blast them, and then spray them that same black that we've been using for everything else on the car.
Got all the little transmission panels ready to be powder coated, so I'm gonna toss these guys in the oven at 400 degrees for about 10 minutes to just heat up the parts. It's called hot flocking, I believe. So we get the parts up to temp, then we can start spraying them with the electrode, and it just makes sure that the powder coat adheres a lot better. So we've got our little inspection panel for underneath the transmission. I did my sway bar or my power steering rack brackets also, since we're powder coating right now, and then the rest of these are all just little transmission parts. So let's get these heated up, get them powder coated, let them cure, and then at that point we can get them back on the trans, seal everything up, and then we can put a trans back in this thing. And it will actually look good too, which is the whole point of this.
Powder coating gun just decided to spew powder out on this bottom cover. I mean, it looks okay. I don't think it warrants restripping it and redoing it. For some reason, it started like puking out a couple runs in the powder coat, but it looks fine. Let it all cool. Get everything sealed up on the transmission, bolt it all back together, and then from there we can actually put the trans back in, PPF brace. I got a little bit more to paint on the rear diff, and then that can go in as well. Actually, I think we got to put in the rear diff first, because the PPF brace has to go from the diff to the trans to the chassis. So that'll be fun. The PPF brace is gonna be a fun one, but at least we'll have a transmission that won't leak anymore. So that'll be nice. In reinstalling all of this stuff, we want to make sure that we have a clean mating surface to put this stuff back onto. So I'm using my little die grinder with a little whizzy wheel, some acetone to make sure that these surfaces are spotless. Putting some Permatex Ultra Gray on here. It's what I use for pretty much anything sealant wise for transmissions or engines. It has worked phenomenally in keeping everything sealed up. Get the bolts back in, tighten them all down, move on. We're gonna do that with all the little panels that require sealant.
after seeing all of these powder coated pieces going back on this transmission that's been sprayed with that Alumabrite, I am so, it's Aluma Blast, apologies. I am so hyped with how this thing looks. It looks like a brand new transmission again, or at least as close to a brand new one as you can get. I'll link that Aluma Blast down below, but that stuff is, dude, it's magical. It's wizardry. Harry Potter couldn't do this himself.
Transmission all done here, and to be honest, I am super happy with it. It looks so good that it's just blown out on camera right now. So all the little brackets and black pieces, I opted to powder coat those. As for our diff here, I did use the Aluma Blast on the cover, and then the rest of it I used black engine enamel. I am gonna replace the seals, so don't stress those. Ooh, don't tip over, that thing just wants to tip over. Same thing with the ears for the diff here. I went ahead and sprayed that in engine enamel as well. So let's go ahead and get the diff in, because the diff is going to hold on with the actual ears of that. And then the PPF brace is gonna have to hold to this guy. That, I believe, is just held in by the PPF brace. So that I wanna get in after this, because I can use the pole jack to support this, while I use the transmission jack to support the trans. So I'm very curious to see what this is gonna look like in the car, dude. It's gonna look so freaking good. It all looks brand new. Like, look at the detail. Just look at the detail of that.
Before we get too much deeper in the RX-7, we gotta give a huge shout out to our video partner today, our guys over at Techron, and we're gonna be talking about their fuel system cleaner, and I actually have the perfect car to throw this in today. Poor little 2.5 RS probably is the dirtiest fuel system you've seen. So this is actually a car that we are STI swapping immediately after the RX-7's done, but as an older car, it has a dirty fuel system. This car has about 200,000 miles on it and is spider infested in there. We do not like that. Charlotte's straight up making her web in here, dude. I hope it, oh, dude, come on, spiders. I don't want to be your friends. Stop. After you have your cap off, Techron's Complete Fuel System Cleaner is super easy to use. Take off the cardboard, pop the cap off. Can I do all this one-handed? Maybe. You got your bottle open? Go ahead and just dump it straight in your fuel tank and let it empty in. Now, Fuel System Cleaner is gonna do a handful of things for you. If you have a dirty fuel system, it can help unstick a stuck fuel level sensor. It's actually done that for me before in the 911 right there. It was actually really nice because I thought I was gonna have to pull the fuel pump assembly out of the 911, and I'm really glad I didn't, and the Fuel System Cleaner did it for me. It's also gonna help restore any lost miles per gallon that you may have been getting if your fuel economy is lacking. That actually helped me in the Tacoma, because if you have a 3rd gen Tacoma, you know that they make absolutely no power, and they have probably the worst fuel economy you have ever had in a vehicle. Techron's Complete Fuel System Cleaner can help restore that lost horsepower that you used to have by cleaning out any gunk, debris that may be in your fuel system. Now, another car that gets it frequently when it does cooperate is the STI back there. Now, we run ethanol in a lot of the cars, and with running ethanol, it is actually a very corrosive fuel. You'll often hear people say that you should run a tank of pump gas in between your ethanol tanks every now and then to help clean out the fuel system. For me, and what I recommend to all of the cars that I build that use ethanol, this one will be included after we are done with it, because it will be on ethanol as well, is when you swap to pump gas, grab a bottle of this Complete Fuel System Cleaner and add it in with the pump gas. It's gonna help keep your fuel system clean and free of corrosion long term, so that way you don't have any buildup that's going to damage the fuel system over time. Stuck injectors, broken fuel level sensors, clogged fuel pumps, clogged fuel lines, things like that. So huge shout out to our guys over at Techron. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, information that you might be curious about, I will link some more information down below for you guys. If you're curious on picking some up, you can pick it up at pretty much any of your local auto parts stores. Most of the time I see a lot of sales going on with it, so keep an eye out for that. But with that, let's get back to the RX-7 because we got more to do.
One that's actually almost like perfectly lined up. There's 2. Just fine.
This rear diff and transmission in has honestly been way easier than I was expecting it to be. Taking him out was a little bit of a pain in the butt, but getting him in has been a breeze. The transmission literally just slides right up and in. Now you do need to support the transmission and the rear differential as you go to install this PPF brace, because the PPF brace is actually what keeps the transmission installed in the car, as it's this giant long runner piece that goes from the trans to the rear diff. They bolt together and then the transmission is just kind of suspended and floats. It's as weird as it sounds, that is the only mounting point for that transmission, aside from it mounting to the engine, is that PPF brace. So it literally just kind of floats. It's the weirdest thing. I guess the drive line also holds it in place, but for the most part, it's just the PPF brace.
The diff, trans, PPF brace, all of it went in way easier than I was anticipating, and it looks so good. And it feels so good to have the entire driveline back in the car again, because now we can, once the engine is built, I'm waiting on my stationary gears. I picked up the E-shaft, the rotors, and the counterweights this morning from Atkins, but I had forgot to give them my stationary gears, and we're gonna replace the bearings in there because there is some wear on the stationary gear bearing, so we'll get that sorted. Once the stationary gears come back, we are gonna end up having to powder coat the engine because Ben does not feel comfortable with it, so we will probably do that in the next video. Once our engine is powder coated and we get our stationary gears back, then we can assemble the 13B, get it in the car, made it up to our beautiful looking transmission here. You put antlers on her?
I was holding them on her head.
Do you have antlers? Momo?
I was holding them on her head. No antlers.
Starting from the back of the car, we have our diff here. I'm super happy with this Alumablast stuff. We used an engine enamel for the rear diff, and that honestly looks really good. We've got our drive shaft here, our PPF brace that is freshly powder coated as well. We've got all of the braces that support the PPF, the diff. Dude, that just looks so good in this photo. Or video. Coming up, we have our transmission here with the Alumablast and all the stuff that I had recently powder coated. This transmission has been resealed, so all of the things that, like paneling wise, that require sealant are sealed up on there. So I'm big hyped for this. I also threw in our slave cylinder right there, so we can actually hook that up to the master up top. Clutch line comes up, goes right up there to our master. Now, I want to, since we have the trans in, we have our shifter in, I want to go ahead and put this on. So it's a brand new shift boot because mine was torn, so this just keeps the outside of the car outside of the car and the inside of the car on the inside of the car, so that way no dirt, debris, or crap is going to get through there. So figure, why not toss that in right now? Get the interior looking, the whole car, every part that we put on makes the whole car look a little bit more complete. Absolutely diabolical, Molly. Yeah. Just putting. I want to get this car on the ground, so let's go ahead and toss on our PBM front lower control arms. From there, we can actually put the front brake rotors on because they're StopTech 2-piece rotors and they're about like brand new. They just look a little old, but they're still brand new rotors. So we'll put lower control arms on, rotors on, toss some wheels on, get this thing off the lift for the first time in 4 months. 4 months! Dude, that's like a mile off. There's no way in hell it's gonna fit. The width inside of here is 40 mil. Coilover is currently 50. So I need to pull 5 mil off of each of these. So I'm gonna lock this, mark 5 mil. I'm pretty bummed and I'm pretty annoyed about this lower control arm situation. So can't use the Power by Max ones. The website I bought them from didn't specify in the product description that I had to use Power by Max or Power by Max's front subframe, their sway bar, all that stuff. And those arms weren't cheap. They were $800, which sucks. So thankfully, there's a local RX7 enthusiast who I sold some parts to recently who happened to help me or happened to acquire a set of new third-party lower control arms for the RX7. So we're gonna go pick those up tomorrow, get those on here. I need to order a new lower collar for one of the coilovers because I just cut the shit out of the other one. So it's not a big deal. It's like 60 bucks, but it's like, if you're gonna sell parts as a vendor or a wholesaler, make sure that you include in the product description all of the important information, such as this product will not fit with stock subframe, stock sway bar, stock style sway bar, I should say, and all that stuff. It's frustrating. So we still made great progress. Trans in, rear diff in, PPF brace in, driveline in, but no, it's just that little stuff. So I'm gonna stew on it. I'll let it stew on me. It's like a hot poop. I feel like I got pooped on. I want to give a absolute huge shout out to JP. He bought an exhaust off of me, my old Tomei that was on the RX7. He had a buddy who actually had a set of these third-party control arms sitting around for an RX7. He hit me up, he's like, hey man, I know somebody who has a set, I'll ask him if he wants to sell them. Thankfully, he wanted to sell them, so we can still get the RX7 suspension fully done. I did have to buy a new lower mount for the BC coilover that I cut up. It's not a big deal, it was like 50 bucks, but you know, it still kind of sucks. I wish that I would have known for the PBM stuff that you need more than just the control arm. You need the subframe, their sway bar, a whole bunch of shit, and it's just not worth it to do it on a car like this. It's not a drift car, it doesn't need all this crazy stuff. So I don't know what I would do with these PBM arms. I might sell them. I might hold on to them for a rainy day. Who knows, maybe one day we'll turn the RX-7 into a drift car. Highly doubt it, but you never know. So let's just get the suspension on. I just got the steering rack back from Cerakote as well. So we can get the steering rack on, all the suspension on, we'll actually be able to steer this thing and push it out of the shop. We can see the RX-7 off of the lift for once. I'm so hyped, I'm so excited. Believe it or not, this is actually a wheel bearing for a Ford Probe. I also have new action nuts. The rotors are a little dirty, but they're brand new two-piece rotors. They're fine. If I have any Loctite, I'm gonna Loctite these down. Need you to go up into your hill. Yeah. There were some choice words said when putting the steering rack in. But it's in, and I got wheels on. The car's off, it's technically off the lift for the first time. I'm so zoomed in, I'm so sorry. It's off the lift, and you know what? It's off the lift for the first time in 4 months. I have no brakes or a way to slow the car down, so this is gonna be fun pushing it out. I got some wheel chocks, we'll throw on some wheel chocks. It is raining outside, so I don't want to leave this thing out here too long with the clear coat not fully protected yet. And well, it should all be cured up at this point. But dude, it's so nice to actually see all the hard work outside of the shop for once. Like, this car has lived on a lift for so long. Huge shout out to JP again for hooking it up with those control arms, because without him, we would have been dead in the water. I do think, looking at it outside, we are 100% going to need a 50/50 hood where it is paint matched and carbon. Carbon skirts, I'm thinking. We will have the carbon wing on here as well. We just need a little bit more contrast going on with the side of the car because it is very, very white. And I think because it's so very white, the white wheels just aren't doing it for me. And I think a darker color actually may be the move here, or even maybe some like chromies. I don't know. Dude, oh my God, I'm so excited. It looks so freaking good. But I did achieve my goal in this video for what I wanted to do, and that was get the entire drivetrain in, the suspension wrapped up, and get this thing out of the shop for once. And I'm so glad that we stuck with it. Coming up, we should be able to start knocking out a lot of the engine stuff. Like I said, I have our rotor housings over here because I am going to have to sandblast these and powder coat these myself because Ben just didn't feel comfortable doing it. I started doing a couple like test spots on this rotor housing here. You guys can see where I kind of sandblasted a little bit and where some of the blasting's been done. So it's going to be black, bronze, black, bronze, black, bronze, similar to, I don't even think I showed you. I did opt to have the turbo powder coated. So we are going with this bronze color for everything. And I think it's gonna look so freaking good. Just like, it's gonna be that combo right there. Bronze, black, bronze, black, bronze, black. But that is all I've got for you guys on this one. I'm gonna get the RX7 pushed back into the shop for right now because I don't wanna let it, there's dust on it and it's raining and I don't wanna let all the dust in the water and turn into like a weird mud type situation. So I'm gonna get that thing wiped off, get it pushed back in the shop. And in the next video, we're gonna start knocking out the rotor housings and start building the engine so that way we can get an engine back in the car. But with that, that's all I got for you guys on this one. So if you like the video, you know what to do. Go to hit that like button, turn it black, blue, green, yellow, purple, silver, cyan, whatever color turns for you. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel and you want to be, I'll put it in one of these corners. No idea which one quite yet. But with that, I will catch you guys in the next one. So peace out, homies. Woo!